Hello, and welcome to 20 Lore Pro, the competitive resource for Lorcana players who enjoy deck building, competing, and talking all things Lorcana. You can find out more at our Discord community, 20lore.pro/discord, link in the description. In today's video, we're joined by B.DeCandio7. We want to thank B.DeCandio7 for interviewing and talking about deck list. If you'd like to find more deck lists like in today's video, head on over to our 20lore.pro Discord. If you'd like to support the 20 Lore Pro team and all that we do from behind the scenes, head on over to our 20 Lore Pro Patreon. 20 Lore Pro is heading to Charlie's Collectible show in Stone Mountain, Georgia to stream their 10K Lorcana tournament June 22nd through the 23rd. Tune in to 20 Lore Pro's Twitch to watch Charlie's Collectible show in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Hope to see you then. Mufasa Ruby Amber, this is a deck list that I really enjoyed, but then saw a big resurgence, and I think a lot of that had to do with your high placement in the Pack Thea Beastly tournament. Is that right?
Yeah, in the middle of March there, I'd played with it, and yeah, I lost to the eventual winner in the top 16. Yeah, it was a really interesting deck to play there. It was slightly different than versions that people had seen before. I was playing the 4-cost Tinkerbell, uninkable character, but the deck kind of just wanted to 4-cost play, and that kind of generated some advantage, and Rapunzel was already played, so I just had to find something that helped, piece the Rapunzel Mother Gothel combo together, which is this deck's main way to draw a bunch of cards. So
taking a look at your list, B.DeCandio7, from when you played in that tournament and had gotten top 16, I see you're playing a lot of one-ofs. What was the choice in playing the one of Maui and the one of Chernobog?
Yeah, so I like to have fun sometimes. I don't know what's right all the time, as that's been clearly pointed out in some of my other deck choices and sizes. No, this deck has a bunch of fun ofs. There's I think one Queen of Hearts, one Maui Whale, one Hades, one Chernobog, one LeFou, and then one Be Prepared. Kind of all niche situations, and they come up and they look good sometimes. They other times are just you're not gonna draw a second one, so they can't be that bad. It was a lot of fun to play. One of the packages I kind of included in the deck that I really did like was Tinkerbell, the 4-cost uninkable Tinkerbell that is a Be Our Guest staple onto it when you play it, and the Peter Pan. Peter Pan lets you have a threat that can take out a cursed merfolk or anything like that, but also gets bonus challenging power when you have the said Tinkerbell in play. But even in matchups where it's not the greatest, it's not too much a challenge, like maybe a Ruby Sapphire or like still a 3-cost 2-lore character, so you can apply some pressure that way. There's a lot of fun to play. I mean, the deck revolves around, I think one of the key selling points of the deck is Mother Gothel and Rapunzel, a self-damaging character that allows Rapunzel to get full value even without interaction from your opponent is a huge win that this color combination has. And of course, playing all characters like this deck does, you get Mufasa. Just a really fun kind of, a little bit RNG, but not really. I mean, it has some randomness to it, but as long as your deck has a bunch of characters, which this does, it has 55 characters, 4 lanterns, and 1 Be Prepared. Just to, I knew the top 16 was going to be open deck lists, and I knew at the time we were playing best of 3, so I wanted to scare my opponents a little bit if they saw it in game 1 to maybe think there's more than one. Or in top 16, just know they have to play around at least one almost at all times because it could be there to blow them out. So some of the fun ofs there.
With this list, especially, I find that Pongo has really become kind of that, I need some extra cards in my hand, I don't have a lot, pay to give me something please, and he can be really strong. Yeah,
I've actually, from this list, I've made some changes since then, of course. I think the Hades and the Chernobog were kind of both going to be Chernobogs, but I was a little scared of drawing both. But from this point, I would definitely play 2 Chernobogs, and I would not play Hades. Chernobog's just been great in these type of decks, and I think that my approach to it was a little bit wrong at first. I was a little scared of some of the aggressive decks, but not really something you can afford to do. Sometimes the aggressive decks just are going to outrace you, and especially in decks like this where you're not playing it in removal, you kind of just have to accept that fact. So Chernobog's great. It's very good against Amber Steel Songs. They don't have too many ways to kill it unless they're playing World's Greatest Criminal Minds. And it also is usually pretty cheap because they're making you discard a bunch of characters. So It's nice to have a 0-cost 9/9 with 3 lore attached to it at all times. But no, that and the Pongos, I've added at least another Pongo up to 3. That one's been very good. It just lets you kind of get into this game state where you're just drawing off the top every turn. You're essentially just paying 2 every turn, but you get 2 cards a turn. And it really has been what we thought it would be initially, even though at first it looks a little bit weak to Amber Steel and let Storm Rage on and grab your sword. You just wait to play it. You wait till a certain point of the game to play it, more so than to run it out there and hope it works out, or play it at a loss where you're like negative tempo wise on Pongo, where you might just play it and not do anything to affect the board and not want to challenge with it. It's a little rough to play then, but there's enough stuff to do character wise in this deck to where that usually doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think having 3 Pongos, like you were saying, that sounds like a really great way to make sure that you're able to get extra characters in your hand, especially when you're kind of left with not a lot if you weren't able to get off the Rapunzel Mother Gothel combo. A more character-based deck, it seems like your strategy is to run out characters, but what's kind of been the best winning lines for you that you've seen with this Ruby Amber Mufasa list?
As always, it always depends. It depends on the matchup you're playing against and going first or second, how you should play the games out. You're always looking for a lantern to start the game because the deck doesn't have too many 2-drops. You just have Mother Gothel, which you typically want to save for later in the game to where you can play both Rapunzel and Gothel in the same turn. So ideally, going first, you have like a lantern on 2, maybe a dock on 3, and then on turn 4, actually, that's 2 accelerants. So that's 6 ink total, where you just get to go Gothel to Rapunzel on turn 4 and play them both out. But certainly games where you're going to play the Queen out and maybe play the Gothel out and just start getting in there with Doc as well. Doc helping you go straight to 5 for either Mufasa or Maui are 2 really high tempo valued cards to where Mufasa is going to be in play and stay in play. Either flip something else over to put to play when if it's dealt with, or just not get dealt with, and Maui to catch you back up if you're a little behind on board, say against a Robin Hood.
And Maui's just so great against locations, which for the rest of this deck, besides once you get up to the Maui Whale or the Maleficent Dragon, can be kind of hard to deal with.
Yeah, locations are always, I think for any deck, except for ones that are removing specific location removal, or Ruby Amethyst, which has a bunch of rush characters and cards like Merlin Crab, to help give extra challenging power to their characters. Locations are going to be a concern for most decks that you have to consider them at all times.
We've kind of already mentioned the flex cards that you have added and taken away from, and more the fun of cards, but what would you say is this deck's weakness? Like, what does it have a hard time playing against and beating?
The one that's been pretty consistently very poor is the Steel Amethyst Jafar decks, because this deck's all about characters and challenging things. If you want to deal with things in play, you have to challenge them pretty much. And when they just shift into a Jafar, they have a bunch of cheaper Jafars, which you can't interact with all of them. And the Jafar itself has evasive, so I can't really do much about it. And then they just kind of gain lore a bunch all at once. And that's probably the worst matchup for this deck. But luckily, if you're wanting to play this deck, I would say that deck's not quite there in the metagame. It's not very good against Amber Steel. It's not good against Ruby Sapphire. So it has its fair share of poor matchups to where I wouldn't be too worrisome about it. I think that Zefa did, I don't know if you know Zefa, he does a lot of YouTube content, I watched his streams a couple times, did like a metagame advantage to win percentage against everything that people have been playing over like a certain amount of games, like over every single deck going first, and going second, it's actually not that bad of a disparity in the win rates. So it's a very well-rounded deck, and it doesn't have too many bad matchups, doesn't have too many great ones, but it's consistent.
Wow, I didn't know about Zefa's analysis of the Mufasa deck list. That's really great to hear, and Zefa makes great content over on his channel. Yeah. This deck is a lot of fun. I was saying earlier, just having Mufasa on the board and then getting pre-prepared, it always is kind of exciting to see what you flip into.
Yeah, I think there was actually a game in the event, or a match I was playing, where in game 2 I flipped into a Maleficent Dragon and lost that game, and then in game 3 I flipped into a Lantern but still won that game. So sometimes it's your day, and sometimes it's not, and sometimes you get the right things and not, and even if you do, it doesn't always work out. So it's a fun card.
That's great. I'm glad to see that you in Into the Inkland Set 3 competitive play were able to take it in a tournament and go pretty far, and to hear about Zefa's analysis of the deck. I hope to see more of this in the future, and maybe to see some updated iterations from you as well as you continue to play.
Yeah, for sure. It's got a lot of work still to be done. I still think we're just scratching the surface of a lot of different decks and a lot of correct configurations for decks. But with all that being said, everything changes every single day, so it's hard to really pinpoint the right thing for any given day of the week or right event, even up until the last minute, I feel like.
Yeah, this has been a very volatile time.
Which is great.
Play.
Which is great, other than having to ask yourself which Ruby Amethyst variant I'm bringing this week, you know.
Besides that, but we don't talk about those things.
No.
Well, Vita Candio, thank you so much for coming and interviewing with us here today with 20 Lore Pro. Is there anything that you'd like to say before you leave to the audience and to 20 Lore Pro specifically?
Thanks for doing what you do and keeping up with all this stuff. I know there's a lot of data out there and a lot of information and a lot of people asking questions, and usually do a pretty good job of making sure everyone's heard and everyone gets the answers they want so they can play and feel like they're, have some eye on the metagame and stuff like that. So thanks everyone. No real critiques at the moment.
Well, thank you so much, Beta Candio. If you would like to learn more about Beta Candio's list or other deck lists that you may want to take to competitions, head on over to 20lore.pro/discord, where you can find our deck discussions panel, where we have tons of deck lists for people to view and to talk about, and really just to enjoy as we start to see competitive play come to light here with Lorcana. So thank you again, Beta Candio. We will see you again, hopefully in the future.
Anytime. Thank you.